It's Wednesday, October 28th, 2015, and this is the Product Mentor Talk. Today we're joined by one of our mentors, James Alexander, Associate Partner at IBM Interactive Experience, and he's going to lead a talk today on finding blue oceans. So the people you see in the room are mentors and mentees within the current session of the Product Mentor program. It's a program that takes place all around the world where we pair up mentors and mentees in the field of product management, helping make better products and better product people. And so that's who you see along the bottom of your screen. But we also open these talks up to everyone else, the rest of the internet out there. And so if you go to theproductmentor.com/live, not only can you see this video, but you can also participate. You can ask your questions, and as you ask your questions, I will jump in and pass them along to James throughout the talk. So it's a little bit presentation and hopefully a lot of questions throughout. So what we're going to do is we're going to quickly go around the room and do some very quick introductions with those who are here and not in a frozen picture. So I'm going to start on my side with Ladislav.
Hi everyone, I'm Ladislav. I'm head of products at Perform Group based in London, and I'm also a group mentor. Thank you.
Excellent. And James.
I'm James Alexander, and I'm presenting today. As Jeremy said, I'm a associate partner at the IBM Interactive Experience Group here in Manhattan.
Excellent. And Anthony.
Hey, I'm Anthony Wynn. I'm one of the mentees, and I'm a product manager at Vitals, a healthcare transparency tech.
Excellent. And again, I am Jeremy Horn, aka the Product Guy. I'll be moderating this talk today. As I said, go to theproductmentor.com/live. Post your questions there, and I will pass them along. The more generic questions I generally save to the end, but the topical questions we get to James right away. So hope to see a lot of you participating today. And with all that said, let me hand it over to you, James, to take it away.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeremy. So today's talk is going to be about finding blue oceans. And this is a concept that really has to do with innovation and how companies can think about innovation in ways that are thoughtful and not just throwing money at problems. So let me just start by telling you a little bit about myself and my background. I'm a strategy and delivery executive at IBM Interactive Experience. I've been here about 3 months or so. It's maybe my 4th month. My history in product management is probably about 17, 18 years deep. I spent 7 years in product management as an executive at Adobe. I've also had 3 startups and 2 exits. So I bring a set of experience to the table here today around just how big companies and small companies are trying to innovate and create new opportunities for themselves and their customers and their investors. And given that we're going to be talking about blue oceans, and blue oceans is fundamentally based on a concept of innovation, I thought that it would be really good just to do some level setting around innovation itself. Is this, we all hear about innovation, we read about innovation, there's a whole management industry built up around innovation, and so what is innovation, and how are companies spending around it? So if you're not familiar, PwC does a global innovation study. They look at the 1,000 publicly traded companies, the top 1,000 publicly traded companies, and they look at how they're spending money around innovation. And as a proxy for that, they look at R&D. And then try to piece together how they're spending those dollars. And they've been doing this study now for about 10 years, so it's just a terrific data set, and the link is in the back of the slides if you want to learn more. But just going to break down some of this information just to kind of get a flavor, so we're all on the same page with respect to how massive the amount of money is that companies spend on innovation today. So just the top 20 spenders invested almost $170 billion in 2014. You can see them there from Volkswagen, which I assume Volkswagen was probably investing in their secret software and how they could cheat the systems but all the way down through, you see IBM there, of course, close to my heart, Google in the middle, Cisco down there at the end at 5.9 billion. So anyway, the top 20 spending about 170 billion on innovation. And if we pull out a little bit from that and look through a little bit wider angle lens, the top 1,000 spenders in R&D are spending about 660 billion total, and then it drops from there. Actually, the next 1,000 are spending about 49 billion. But in all, the top companies that are being tracked are spending over $1 trillion in innovation. So on an annual basis, so just a tremendous amount of capital being spent by companies to try to differentiate themselves, to try to create new products, and create more value for their customers and their shareholders. What is interesting is that on average across the top 1,000, companies are spending about 3.5% of revenue. Across the top 20, it's closer to about 12 to 13% of revenue is the average spend that companies have on their innovation. So the funny thing, though, is like most things in life, money can't buy you love, and so you can spend a great deal of money trying to innovate and throw money at problems. But what's really interesting as part of the study is that the top 10 most perceived innovative companies actually spent almost half of what the top 10 spenders actually spent, and only five of the top spenders were actually ranked most innovative. So about 25% of the top 20 who are actually spending dollars are viewed as and perceived as being the most innovative. And in fact, Apple, which is number one in terms of perception of innovation, which seems kind of intuitive, they actually made the top 20 list for the first time in 2015, and but they're only spending 3.3% of revenue on innovation. And that just is sort of mind-boggling to think that a company that's that big and generates that much revenue is only spending about 3.3% of it on innovation. But it just goes to show that these companies in this list are doing more than just focusing on spending money. They're doing other things like focusing on experience and thinking about how to innovate in thoughtful ways. And that brings us to how are companies thinking about innovation as we start to look at blue oceans, and where does the concept of blue oceans come from? There are a ton of ways to think about innovation. There are probably as many definitions of innovation as there are members of the product group. So I'm just going to, since my talk, I'm going to focus on this one, which I like. It's a very simple model to think about. And basically the first is down in the lower left corner, and this is core innovation. So this is all about optimizing your existing products for your existing customers. So this is adding new features to an existing product, and making it better, making it competitive. If a competitor comes out with a new feature, taking that and either replicating that feature or maybe even perhaps extending it a little bit. But that's core. The idea is that these are existing products and these are existing customers. The next way up here, as we go up towards the upper right side here, is adjacent. So this is looking at opportunities to expand from the core, side businesses or bolting services or new products onto our existing core business. And then we have transformational in the upper right corner. And these are things that are absolute breakthroughs. They are unrelated to the core business. They are perhaps creating new industries, new product categories altogether. So with those three as a backdrop, let me get to some examples to add a little bit more meat to the bone here. So let me start with core as far as an example of what I mean by core for innovation. And so this is the classic Oreo package. This is not what the Oreo package looks like in my house. It would be empty. But basically, the reason this is a core, what we're looking at is a package, of course, and the fact that the lid peels from the left to the right in this picture, and it's now self-sealing. This is very much a core innovation. Nabisco did not change the cookie. They didn't change the formula. They didn't change their branding. They didn't change their value proposition for the core product itself. What they did was they made getting access to that product much easier and much more convenient and actually pretty delightful. I have to say, if you've ever opened an Oreo package with a self-sealable open top, there's just something really great about peeling that thing back and having those clear those white plastic things snap, because you know you're about to experience pure delight in your mouth. So, but the point is that this is a core innovation. This is stuff that product managers, we should be doing day in and day out as we create more value and incremental improvements to our existing products. As we kind of move up to the adjacent category, I want to talk about Adobe stock photos. And I actually, in 2004, led a team at Adobe that introduced stock photography into the creative applications. And that was the first generation of Adobe stock. And what we were looking at the time to do was to leverage our position on the Creative Pro desktop, where we had over 100% market share, because most creative pros had more than two, I think it was like 2.3 or 2.4 different Adobe creative apps. And so we had that market locked. There were competing products that were trying to enter, but by and large, for us to grow revenue in that amongst our customer base, we had to find new ways to add additional products or additional services. And so as an adjacent service, we looked at a variety of different opportunities, and stock photography kept coming up as something that our customers were asking for. We're looking for more efficient ways to search and manage and license stock content. And so we began the effort to pull together a stock photo service that was actually integrated into the apps. We went out to all of the large major stock photography agencies like Getty Images and Corbis and Jupiter. We had 8 in all worldwide, and we put the ability to search, license, and manage stock photography right into the creative apps. And so that's an example of an adjacent innovation. So it's extending the existing core product, which in this case was software for creative professionals, and adding something new and different to it that was not necessarily a new feature per se, but in this case a full-blown web-hosted service. And by the way, they just bought a company called Fotalia, Adobe did, and has beefed up that offering tremendously. And then as we move up to transformational, the Apple Watch is an easy picking as an example for something that's transformational. And the reason this is transformational for Apple is because there really are not customers, and we're not customers for a watch computer on your wrist. There was, of course, Nike Fuel and Pebble and other kinds of watches that were out there, but not the kinds of customers that I think, the quantity of customers that Apple envisioned when they rolled this product out. This is not a computer. It is not a phone. It is not an iPod. It is an entirely new category. You could argue that there is a watch industry, and there is. But from a transformational perspective, for Apple, this is a product unlike any product that they've ever had before. And if you were on the mailings, you got mailings from Apple that you never got before. You got invited to see this product in person at a store. You were invited to make an appointment to have a sales professional show you this product. When you bought the product, you had a series of emails and touch points with the company that you never had with previous products, whether it was a computer or an iPhone. So they really thought through the entire experience of this from the ground up as a brand new product. So those are the things that when you think about innovation, the three categories across the board, from core to adjacent to transformational. And it's a really simple model as a way to think about how to spend your innovation dollars and how you allocate your time and resources against those innovation dollars. So if we come back to the chart, in terms of thinking about it that way, it's very helpful. But what's the formula? Is there a formula? And there is a golden ratio that is starting to get some traction. And Google is probably the most famous for promoting the 70-20-10 rule. But other companies use it as well. And HBR actually just did a study. They released a paper called "Managing Your Innovation Portfolio," and there's a link in the back to it. And the authors looked at companies that have this kind of breakdown, and they actually determined that these companies are getting a PE premium of about 10 to 20% of publicly traded companies when they break their innovation spend across 70% for core, 20% for adjacent products and services or opportunities, and then 10% for transformational. And the spend in these areas makes some sense. I mean, you've got to spend more money on core because you are in a competitive environment. Your product may be a premium product, it may be a commodity, and to continue to remain competitive, you have to spend more dollars. So there's a disproportionate amount of dollars that are going to go to core, but you're going to get less leverage. You're going to get less leverage on those dollars. Whereas transformational, if you're spending 10% of your innovation dollars on transformational, and you're truly looking at building transformational markets, then you may actually be getting more leverage. And this is what brings us to this concept of red oceans and blue oceans. And so I'm just going to advance here and make the point.
So I want to quickly jump in. We've got a question from Irfan, and this is regarding the Apple Watch example that you mentioned just a few moments ago. And his statement and question are: Could you not argue that the Apple Watch was an adjacent innovation since it's not a separate product? It depends on having an iPhone.
Well, the first version, I think, depended on having the iPhone. I mean, the current version obviously is tethered to it as well. But there's a move towards making that product as a standalone product to operate on its own. And who knows what Apple intends to do. I think, to be honest, you read a lot of these examples, and they're all pretty squishy. So I think you're trying to take a model that's thoughtful, and this is a way to think and organize your thought process, and you're trying to lump things into it to make a point. I do though think that the watch, at least for me through the lens I'm looking at this through, really is a transformational product, because I think it meets, and this kind of gets to the punchline on blue ocean and what the criteria for blue ocean is. There was no customer base of people to upgrade to Apple Watch 1.0. It is a brand new product. I don't have boxes for Apple Watch in my basement. I've got tons of boxes for iPhones. I got tons of boxes for laptops, Apple laptops, but no boxes for Watch. So that is a brand new customer. Everyone who buys that watch, who bought that watch this year, bought that watch for the very first time. And that's a lot about what Blue Ocean is about, creating new markets and new customers. And the product is fundamentally different. It's not like they put a phone on your wrist. I mean, I'm still not sure of the value of the product. Personally, I've had it since the first day, but it does make an impact in my life. I think I've not worn it one day, and I felt naked the whole day. So anyway, I think we could thumb wrestle on whether it's a transformational or adjacent, but I think through the lens we're going to talk about today anyway, I think it's going to really fit more to be along the lines of transformational.
Great. So yeah, keep the questions coming in at theproductmentor.com/live as they come in. I'll pass them along to James. Back to you, James.
Okay, great. So this is really the point. So we've laid some groundwork around innovation that companies spend, trackable anyway, revenue, public traded companies, over $1 trillion in innovation, and the companies that are really thoughtful about it are actually spending less than their peers have to spend. And we talked about a way to think about thoughtful innovation. So spending on core, spending on adjacent, spending on transformational, and so that leads us up to this concept of blue ocean and red ocean, and I'm connecting some dots here that just connected for me as I read the literature just about the breakout and thinking about definition of innovation, and then of course with red ocean and blue ocean. And it kind of fits really neat in my mind between the different spend amounts. And so the idea behind blue ocean, and that's the transformational chunk that you see there in blue, is really sort of the ultimate question is, why compete at all? If we're in this red ocean environment and we have we've got crowded markets, maybe it's a race to the bottom on price if it's a commodity. Or we're trying to eke out costs as much as we can to keep profits up, or maybe we sell luxury items, so we're not selling on price, but we have to continue to find premium features, for our product that further brings down profitability. That's not a lot of fun to be in that kind of situation, and the reason it's called a red ocean is because these crowded markets, lots of competition, they're bloody. Companies go away. I think the stat is something like half the Fortune 1,000 companies from just 10 years ago, 2003, 2004, 2005, aren't around anymore. Business is tough, and it's hard to compete. So the idea with blue ocean, or the blue ocean, business thought process, is that the real opportunity is around creating uncontested market spaces. Carve out something completely new, completely fresh that you can own, and by definition, there is no competition, and that gives you some roadway until there is competition, and there will always be competition once you prove out a successful blue ocean market. But the other point I want to make here too, and I'll come back to this, is that blue oceans are not about technology and innovation. And if we go back to the Apple Watch example for a second, I don't think there's probably much technology in the Apple Watch that Apple didn't have, last year or the years before. They just assembled it in a really unique way and sprinkled their magic fairy dust on it. So that doesn't mean that blue ocean opportunities can't be technology based, but the point is that you don't have to be out trying to cure cancer or invent some kind of micro technology, or be doing pure research to uncover opportunities around blue ocean. And I'll just give some credit here too. So this blue ocean concept was introduced in 2004 by a couple people over at INSEAD, and in the back in the resource section, I've got links to their books and to their book and a couple of their articles. All right, so the point here is that the blue oceans are not about necessarily technology innovation, and I was just saying that there's probably very little technology that is in the Apple Watch that was not already on the shelf within the last couple of years, and they just packaged it in a way and created an amazing experience. So what's the difference between red oceans and blue oceans? And the first thing I want to do is just point out that these are not mutually exclusive concepts. In fact, a product manager is going to have a balance of red ocean and blue ocean in their portfolio. And just kind of go down by the left here. So the first is with red oceans, we're competing in an existing market space. We're focused on competition, performing better than the competition. We're focused on exploiting existing demand for our products and services. Many of us have to make a value or cost trade-off, so either we're going to be delivering highly differentiated products or services that are feature-driven and that are differentiated in the market that way, or we're going to more or less have a commodity-type product where we're selling based on lowering costs or taking cost out of a system for a customer or client. And the reality is these are crowded spaces. These are the businesses that we compete with today. They're known markets, and we have competition. The concept with the blue ocean, to contrast that, is that these are new market spaces. There is no competition in these spaces, or very little competition. And by moving in that direction, in essence, competition is irrelevant. We don't need to be looking over our shoulder, at least not initially, because we're creating and capturing new demand for a product or service. And because of that, we're not constrained by a value and cost trade-off, because there is no reference point in the market for the product or service that we have in market. And so therefore, initially, growth can be very profitable and can be rapid. This is the theory behind blue oceans. So to help synthesize that into an example, one of the great things the folks behind Blue Oceans did recently, they just published another Harvard article, Harvard Business Review article, and they introduced this concept of pioneer, mitigator, and settler in a map. And the notion here is that settlers are basically the red ocean type businesses. These are the Me Too offerings, where migrators are businesses, products and services that have value improvements over competitors, and then the pioneers are the blue ocean businesses that are offering all this new value. And so the concept, if you subscribe to the blue ocean theory, is that you need to be constantly introducing pioneers, because over time, once you've successfully identified a new market opportunity, there will be competition. And so as competition comes into your market, your pioneer will move down to mitigator or migrator, and then we'll move down to settler. And so to hit that point home, if we compare, if we put Apple's products on the chart from 97 to 2014, we can see an example of this. So pioneers, we have back in the early 2000s, iPod is a pioneer, and then over the following years, it moves down into migrator, and then pretty much into a settler. I mean, there's very little that Apple is going to add to that product that the market is going to let them have as a unique feature or unique service. And then,
I just want to jump in. We have a question from an anonymous user. Anonymous visitor, and their question's about, does Blue Ocean only work for consumer products?
I don't think it works for just consumer products. And in a couple of slides, we'll talk about a tool that folks can use to take the industry they're in and actually look and ask some questions to see if maybe there's an opportunity to apply Blue Ocean methodologies there. I would tell you, I mean, I know I've been at IBM all of about 3 months, but I can tell you, and I don't think we set out to do it this way, but and I'll draw this parallel in a couple of slides, but I think we can retrofit ourselves into a Blue Ocean model in terms of just from an enterprise perspective, where we've stopped doing certain things and started doing other things to shift our business and how we bring our products and services to market, and we're largely a B2B business as well.
Cool. And another question from another anonymous person, perhaps even the same one. Feel free to use your first name or full name or even an alias instead of anonymous. And so the next question is, would you consider Google Glass as a Blue Ocean product? And if you do, doesn't that mean we can take it for granted being in a Blue Ocean?
I'm not sure what it means to be taken for granted we're in a blue ocean, but I do think Glass is probably fits that transformative definition. I don't think that it necessarily hit all the right boxes, but all of us who've been around startups or have done startups know that you need to fail a few times before you get it right. And so I think it's hard to believe, folks, that in 20 years, 30 years, we're not going to have some kind of screen projected in front of us to do a variety of tasks, whatever screen that form that takes. It just seems like there's too much use. And in fact, I have Glass. I don't own Google Glass, but I have Glass. It's in my Prius. I have a heads-up display. It projects data right onto my windshield. So I'm not wearing glasses, but I'm wearing my car when I sit in the seat. So you want to think about it that way. I think they're onto something. They just got to polish it up a little bit.
Cool. Cool. That's all the questions we have at the moment. Keep them coming in at theproductmentor.com/live. And let me hand it back to you, James.
Okay, great. So I've just gone back to the deck, and just to finish out on this concept of applying this this concept of the Pioneer, the migrator, and the settler map to Apple. So over on the left, we've got, you can just see iPod, falling down here into settler status, and the iPhone comes in, and then the iPhone diminishes. It's still a very special product. So I think it hasn't quite moved into commodity, but the idea of a phone with one button and pinch and zoom, that's not new anymore. And so Apple will continue to introduce new features and continue to find adjacencies to keep that product relevant. But that product it's logical to assume will continue to move down. So then iPad in the early 2010s, and then of course now Apple Watch if we went out one more year. So this is just a really interesting example to a way to think about how to apply Blue Ocean, and reinforces a couple of things. But probably one of the most important is that Red Ocean and Blue Ocean are not mutually exclusive, and you need to keep filling the funnel with these Blue Ocean opportunities, because they will become at some point Red Ocean fodder. And if you look at the migrators with Macintosh there in the middle, I mean, the reality is it's a very special product, but it's a computer, and there are a lot of choices and substitutes for computers today. So in terms of tools and thinking about how to position these things in your mind, and also as you think about if you want to take these concepts and learn more about them, but also if you want to start to apply them at your own workplace, or if you're job hunting, thinking about ways to apply these concepts to the businesses of the companies that you may be looking at interviewing with or talking to. Sort of the Red Ocean piece is the one that I keep coming back to as the a really predominant tool and thought process that comes up in the workplace quite a bit is Porter's 5 forces for competitive analysis. And if you've been through B School, or if you've read some of the literature around competitive analysis and strategy, you've come across Porter's 5 forces, and supplier power and buyer power, and new entrants and substitutes, and the rivalry among that network. So that's great to go refresh yourself with if you haven't looked at that in a while. But that's really a tool for competition, and so by definition, it really is more a Red Ocean type management tool. And then on the Blue Ocean side, the Blue Ocean strategy, or you see this in the literature, is noted as BOS. So these are the two professors from INSEAD, and they have they've built quite a following to advocate and evangelize this particular methodology and thought process. I tell you, quite frankly, as I got into this more and more for the talk today, and just to learn, I do find it's a little hard to wrap my brain around the Blue Ocean theory. It's not as accessible as Porter's 5 forces yet, but they're clearly working on fine-tuning it and providing tools and inventing models and things like the map we just saw to help people leverage and think about this area of innovation. Six sort of areas that they focus on. And so around formulating Blue Ocean strategy, they've got reconstructing the market boundaries, so tools to help people think about how you reposition the market that you're in, the industry that you're in, so you can start to stretch your mind and peer around corners and maybe see things that you don't that you wouldn't have seen anyway. There's a lot about focusing on the big picture. To some extent, Blue Oceans is about selling the future. It's about selling a dream, and getting wrapped around the axle on numbers and market sizing are largely futile efforts, because the market doesn't exist. So so going to management and presenting all of these cases can be problematic. And so the advice is to focus on the big picture and focus on the dream and the impact that you're going to have. Reaching beyond existing demand, a model to help people think about how to think about creating new customer bases, and what a new customer might look like, and how to unlock that. A lot about strategic sequencing. It's very interesting to see how the people are bringing this concept to the market, to have people think about it, because there's very much a whiff of struggle to get businesses to think about blue oceans the way that the authors want you to think about it, and that extends down into executing BOS. So this is from their materials. They specifically talk about how to overcome key organizational hurdles and building execution into strategy. So I'm inferring from their materials about how they talk about in their books, about how they talk about how to roll this out, that organizations just don't really think this way. At least they don't think this way yet. And so unlike Porter's, where the concepts are easy to understand because we deal with them every single day. It feels like this concept of blue oceans is something that isn't just a concept, but it's also about how to ingrain that concept or get people to be thinking about that concept overall. And so as we wrap down, I did want to bring out one of the frameworks and propose an assignment for folks to think about something you could do tomorrow or over the weekend or next week, whether you're gainfully employed, you can do this with your current job, or whether you're looking for something new. It could be an impressive thing to talk about, with your management or your potentially new management. And this is one of the early frameworks that the authors want people to go through and think through. So this is something that you would do early in the process before you get into those 6 points. Those 6 pillars around blue oceans, and basically the thought process is really simple. So if you look at your current industry, and everyone is in an industry, so this gets to the question about is this just for consumers? And it's not. If you're if you are working on something, you are in an industry. So the concept here is basically to ask 4 questions, and the goal is to identify a new value curve. And so starting from the top at 12 o'clock and going around. So reduce. So what factors in your current industry can, in essence, be reduced? What things are we doing that we can be doing less of because no one cares? And then the corollary right down below that is raise. What things in the industry are really important to our customers that we should be doing more of? That might help us differentiate. And I'll give you a couple examples, from IBM. So in the case of reduce, it was a lot about reducing, for instance, our footprint in the PC world, and you could argue it's almost a whole-out elimination of that technology. It was something that our customers were saying was not something that was differentiating us in the market, and so we stopped doing that as much. And then on the raise piece, I think we saw customers moving more and more data to the cloud. And so if you've been following IBM or listened to anything recently around our earnings announcement, which came out recently, we've been investing very heavily for the last 2 to 3 years in cloud technology, both in terms of providing that as a service as well as the underpinnings of the technologies that can drive cloud. So there's an example just with IBM of places where we've looked at this and said, okay, we're going to reduce doing some of this and we're going to increase doing some of these other things. And then on the left we have eliminate. So what things in the industry are just not necessary anymore. And can we eliminate that? Can we stop doing those things? And maybe the Lenovo spinoff is a better example of that. And then on the right side, create. What things in the industry has never been offered before that could be that could be augmenting or by moving some of these levers around wind up creating a whole new market space. And the example I give you here is cognitive computing. And so that's a very important initiative at IBM. It's one of our core initiatives. We're investing very heavily in cognitive computing, and that's just sort of fancy speak for having computers that can basically learn and program themselves, and the benefits you then get out of that. And so we're basically placing a very huge bet around this notion of asking the question, why do we need to have human beings program computers when we can just teach them how to do it on their own, and let's look at what that can potentially unlock. So this is part of the curriculum for Blue Oceans. One of the first things that you would do, and if you sit down and just kind of ask yourself some of these questions, it may be very illustrative for and may help you peer around some corners and maybe identify potentially a new opportunity or new market. So just going to wrap up. Let me just summarize. Companies are spending more than $1 trillion annually on innovation. It really is amazing how much money goes into innovation, and that's very exciting, especially for all us product people. We should be just incredibly excited that companies are really investing in new products and new services to try to create more value and differentiate themselves. But throwing money at a problem isn't the answer either, and so innovating thoughtfully, it saves costs and it amplifies the impact. The reality is that many industries are of course commoditized and crowded, and so that's forcing this new thought process around, hey, how can we innovate in a better way to get more impact. Blue Ocean's strategy is one model. It's one way to think about it. But I think it's also important to hammer home that it's never complete. Pioneers, will eventually always face competition. If and the Google Glass example is probably a good example. I mean, we don't see a lot of people entering the visual face wearables space right now. I'm pretty sure that if Glass had nailed it and hit it out of the park, that we would probably have a ton of competitors in that market because Google showed how to do it. But I think they missed, and so we're not seeing a lot of competition there. But eventually you will. So you've got to, if you're going to do the Blue Ocean strategy, you have to keep doing it. And that really gets to the final point, which is that if you subscribe to the Blue Ocean theory, that successful product managers will build a balanced portfolio across their current red ocean businesses and their blue ocean businesses.
Cool. And we've got a question. I'm going to hand it over to Anthony for his question.
So my question is, how does one best time or prioritize blue ocean development? For example, in the past several decades, companies have invested so much into tablet computing, and it's really only in the past several years that we've had the technology, available to make things like the iPad or Surfaces or other tablets, small enough to be usable and adopted by the mass market. In other words, it feels like the history of technology is littered with great ideas that happened before their time, and a company could be faced with throwing good money after bad for years, even though the technology hasn't matured to the point where it's appropriate. And so how does one avoid this and better time their blue ocean investments or better prioritize these?
So I think, and I welcome everyone else to chime in if you like. I think prioritization is always a problem the further out from reality you get. With Red Ocean, it's the current product. I hate to call it Red Ocean because it just the reality is many of us have great successful businesses. We're competitive, but I think it's much easier to look at your existing product roadmap and say, okay, I know that my customers are going to face these issues and these challenges in the next 12 to 18 months. I think it's much harder to sit and say, okay, in 24 or 36 months, millions of users or whatever the metric for success is are going to be doing something different. So I think that's always fraught with risk, and I don't think there's a good answer. I think part of it is how do you bring these blue ocean opportunities to market. If you're Apple, you can literally just say I'm going to build a market, and they have some amount of built-in customers who will try something. Who knows if the Apple Watch will be successful or not? I mean, nobody knows. But they've got a couple of years to play because people like me and maybe other people on the call today, are willing to play along, and we're willing to spend some money to help them figure it out. I don't think Google enjoyed that same kind of following with glass, and so it came off the market much more quickly. So I think part of it is, who are you as a company? And most companies aren't like Apple, which means that we have to take, I think, really sort of careful and thoughtful approaches to how we roll out products. And so if there are ways that we can engineer success into a blue ocean initiative through testing or some kind of way to reduce the risk for the company, but still allow us to move very quickly, that may be the best way to mitigate risk or at least hedge our bets.
Great. And the next question from Vikas.
Yeah, James, my question is very similar to what you were mentioning in terms of any frameworks or any inputs around assessing which blue ocean opportunities are worthwhile and how they could be de-risked. By very definition, these are high risk, high gain kind of opportunities.
So I think it's really squishy. I think that there are going to be certain litmus tests that companies have just based on their size and who they are that can help maybe gauge these things. So, for instance, at IBM, we do $80 billion a year in revenue. We're not really looking to for $100 million opportunities. That's just not something that's going to move the needle for us. So if I'm looking at a blue ocean opportunity or something that may fall into that category, that bucket, and it looks like at 5 years out I'm going to have a whopping $100 million business, that's going to be really easy to prioritize because that's not going to happen. So but then again, if you're a $100 million company and you've got a potential $100 million opportunity in 3 to 5 years, that's huge. That doubles the size of your company. So I think there are metrics that you can look at once you begin to zero in on what an opportunity is, and to the extent that you can do some financial modeling and forecasting, that may be one approach to prioritization.
Great. So we're going to wrap up now, and I definitely want to thank you again, James, Associate Partner at IBM Interactive Experience, on really this great presentation on finding blue oceans. Also one of the prettiest ones I've seen in some long time. And for also everyone else who's joined us, we'll be posting this up on our SlideShare channel very shortly. And also just a big thank you from me, Jeremy Horn, the product guy, and everyone else who joined us in the room and the rest of the internet, and I guess those folks over my shoulder right there. And also don't forget, if you're interested in being a product mentor, just like James, we're always looking for more mentors. Our next session is actually starting November 1st, but that doesn't mean we're not already interviewing people for the session that comes after it, session 5. That one where interviews are in progress. So definitely go sign up at theproductmentor.com. There's an FAQ. You can learn a lot more about it. You can see other mentors. Check out a lot of our cool stuff that we've got there. Theproductmentor.com to sign up today. And also, if you're looking to fill a new product job with a great product person, wherever you are in the world, definitely visit our very own free-for-all job board at theproductjobs.com. And once again, and until next time, I'll see you guys all soon. Bye.